I actually think that American men are actually a little more codependent and narcissistic, but you know, I hear your point.
I would challenge everybody and say it's human nature for us to be narcissistic to some degree. It doesn't matter what culture you come from, because in within those cultures, you there's different within those cultures there's the different hierarchies or self-value that you the self-image that you have. So I think that that's across the board just in human nature.
I don't know about that because if you look at a lot of like ancient cultures, the idea of the self is almost non-existent. People will have the same exact hairstyle. All the men will dress exactly the same. All the women will dress exactly the same. If you go back, especially if you look tribally, like a lot of tribal societies, everyone there is no self. There's no like you look like you and you're expressing yourself a certain way. If our tribe wears red and white, then that's what we wear is red and white. There's no person that wears blue in the tribe because they like blue. That's just not how it works in like
Wouldn't
I guess
it's
less
not because they like
modernized society.
it wouldn't be because they like it, but it'll be because they achieve the ability to wear that blue. With people, the tribes that had the body, the scar modifications. If you have a certain pattern, you reached a certain level.
Yeah,
If you unalive a lion, then
sure.
you have the ability to walk around with that lion's tooth or whatever the case may be.
But you still have the scars. You see what I'm saying? Like you couldn't exist in the society without having the scars. You have to be like everyone else to exist in those societies. Like you might be wearing a lion's tooth and he might be wearing a hyena's tooth, but you're all wearing a tooth because it's part in the society. You have to hunt something. You can't exist as a man in this culture if you don't hunt something. Like if you're part of the Maasai tribe and they eat meat, that's what you eat. There's no vegetarian Maasai. You get what I mean? So there's kind
Yeah,
of
no,
like that's what I mean when I say there's no eat kind of you. You're not an individual in those type of societies.
All right, let me go ahead and get Luis in there, y'all. Go ahead, Luis.
Can y'all first and foremost, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes,
All
sir.
right, good, good. So, I got a chance to hear all of you, and I know we've had this conversation before, and like, we've circled the wagon. So I kind of just took a different approach. I just kind of broke it down in like three different categories, from sexual market value to relationship market value to marriage market value. Um, and pretty much what I looked at it, especially just taking some points and writing down what falls under what category, especially when we're talking about people, and it's people who are born here, raised here, educated here, and cultured here, right? Culture plays a big part. I mean, we're one of the biggest freaking melting pots in the world, and culture is everything. It's very addicting. A lot of people tend to emulate and pick up certain things from other cultures. It's hard not to do that, considering how close in proximity we live amongst each other, right? And certain things that resonate with other people from other cultures, because the more we think we're more different, we're more alike in some ways. We might speak different languages, we might eat different foods and have different customs, but we're a lot more alike than we are different. And I think sometimes we forget about that. As it pertains to just the sexual market value, I think what has happened is that we have created the greatest campaign of sorry. I think what has happened is we have created the greatest campaign of propaganda to spread across the world that family no longer matters, and it's all about the individual and self. If we start to talk about what is sexual market value as it pertains to oneself, and we look at all the other categories as it pertains to family creation, we're talking about people who live in communities and tribes versus someone who is now living outside that tribe, who lives outside of that different code, right? A lot of people think about the black community. People get kicked out at 18, figure it out. There isn't that after stage where people start to kind of live in close communities. They still have their parents. You know what I'm saying? I brought this up last time we were on this panel. Most people are dating in secret. Most women are dating in secret. You know why? Because they will never bring that person that they like to be introduced to their father, their brother, right? Because if they did, they would never approve them. So they do everything in secret. There is no sense of community around, introducing people who are the better candidates for a better prospect relationship. Obviously, the conversations and all that need to happen at some point, but being in front of the best pool of candidates as opposed to trying to experiment is like playing Russian roulette with your life and your health, right? Why put yourself in that predicament? And I think that we've gotten so comfortable with this idea that, well, we live in America and all this and that. Contrary to popular belief, we've never lived by these ideals. We've always had a high marriage rate. We've never had out of wedlock situations, right? And sort of like we have taken on other people's characteristics within this melting pot, right, that we call America. We've idolized other cultures of living, right, that are detrimental to us in terms of how we live in proximity to one another. I'll give you an example. Um, why, what I'm saying? Why is the I think today more than ever the idea of family is more attacked, and the idea of being by yourself as like an individual is more celebrated, and that's for men and women, right? I don't want to make this gender specific, but it really is, and sort of that's where we're at, and sort of if there's all this divide, who gets to conquer? Everybody else in between, and sort of when you compare what communities thrive in close niche and what they promote, you know what I'm saying? It's much different. But to Mara's point, in terms of like her culture, like I don't ever expect here people to do that. I think people have so much freedom today that they don't even know what to do with it, right? You ever hear? I've always found it weird to me when women say, "Oh, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free," but the first thing you do is not write a book, not focus on school, is to go and do something debauchery, like, and say that it's liberating, but it's not compared to doing something that's more liberating, that's an added value or added a benefit to your own community or to your sisterhood, right? I think the mindsets are different, and sort of we need to reconcile what that looks like, especially moving forward. Hey, you.
Uh, I think that it was interesting, even with the video that JR played. The young lady, she started it off